Hello, flatties and globe defenders, it's Critical Things from Down Under. Now, Antonio Subirats has tried to do an experiment involving the horizon inside his house. Well, he's messed up again and ended up proving the globe.
First, let's talk about some wacky flat earth ideas. Now, the first one on the agenda is eye level is where you point the camera. Now, this is an excuse to try and get out of the fact that the horizon drops. It goes something like this. The horizon is at eye level. So, whenever you point the camera at the horizon has to be in the middle of the screen. So, the eye level is in the middle of the screen. Even though the horizon may not be eye level, you may in fact level your camera to a point that is not at the horizon, then the camera cannot be level because it's not pointing at the horizon. And I'm not really sure how you can alter the geometry of distant objects by tilting the camera up and down, but apparently that's possible. Now, the interesting thing about this is that if the eye level is anywhere I point the camera, then if I point the camera at my feet, then my feet must suddenly become eye level. Now, I don't know if Antonio subscribes to this particular interesting hypothesis or ridiculousness, I would say, but he's actually got something a little bit more silly, and that is, if you can see the horizon through a tube, then the earth is flat. Now, he's come up with this in response to the fact that I actually did his experiment and proved that by his criteria for his experiment, the earth is not flat, it's in fact a globe. So Antonio had to come up with something new, and it's this. If you can see the horizon through a tube, then the earth is flat. And you can see that here, this is what he uses as proof that the earth is flat, even though we know that this particular tube at the other end is pointing to the horizon on the south. This horizon on the north, the tube is actually pointing above the horizon. But no matter, we can just lift the camera and alter the geometry, and then we can say that the earth is flat because we can see the horizon through the tube. Now, here's another one. So, if your tube is level, everything you can see through the tube is at eye level. Now, you may think that I am kidding, that no one could possibly think this. This has got to be one of the most incredibly silly things. But here we go. Some flat earther has actually said it. There you go, Gary. He said, if it's in my scope, it's at eye level. I'm looking through it with my eye, and the pipe is level. Therefore, that's eye level. Top marks for inventiveness on that one. And we know Antonio Subirats supports this because of the video that he's made, and also he's pointed out Gary's video as a better attempt than my so-called poor attempt. So we know Antonio subscribes to this one, that's if your tube is level, everything you can see through the tube is at eye level. And that, of course, ignores some very interesting geometry. Now, here we have what you could see perhaps through a tube. It depends on the size of the tube, the length of the tube, But if your tube is level, then when we look down that tube, we might see an aeroplane in the sky, some mountains in the distance, a house in the foreground. But by that definition, it's all at eye level. So no matter where the horizon is there, the horizon will be at eye level. It doesn't matter where it is. So therefore, the Earth is flat. It is clear, common sense, that an aeroplane in the sky is above that house on the ground, but not so to flat earthers. Now, Antonio's premise that if your tube is level, then everything you see through the tube is eye level is a thing. Then let's see what that really means. I mean, I've got a tube here I've drawn, and it's level. And then if you were looking directly down the center line of the tube, as you should be doing to sight things up, then this object here would be at eye level. But you can clearly see that if you look down at an angle through your tube, that this object here, the yellow one, is pretty obvious that it's not at the same level as the orange star. So clearly, anything you see in a tube here, if you're going to look down, that one's below that one. I mean, why do I even need to explain this? The whole premise of Antonio's video is based on this concept. So the video itself is very poor quality and very hard to see exactly what's happening. We have to go by the words, but because it's based on this crazy concept that whatever you can see through a tube is at eye level, then we'll ignore that for now because that's obviously ridiculous, and we'll take a look at exactly what it is that Antonio does prove.
The setup. Laser level. 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 Level.
Oh, wait a minute, Antonio. I think I see a little bit of a problem with that. Oh, look at that laser beam across the room. Now just draw this red line where the laser beam is, and the other line is sort of lines up with your house there. I mean, whoa, there's something terribly wrong there. So either your laser is not level, or you need to contact your builder about the house, or you need to go and check outside that there hasn't been an earthquake, because you've got a couple of degrees tilt there, Antonio. Now we can see there's a lateral tilt there. You've messed up there, Antonio. Now let's take a look at the tilt that's in the direction that the camera's pointing. Yes, there's tilt here too. So you can see that the laser is pretty close to the middle of the tube there, but in the distance it's gone down. So the camera is actually either not at eye level or the laser tilts. And we can go on to the next picture I've taken. Now Antonio's got his hand in front of the camera, and you can see the laser is high here on this end of the tube. It's in the middle, that end of the tube, and it's lower than that further on in the distance. So you've definitely got a lowering horizon there. So your horizon is not at eye level. Your horizon is actually lower than eye level. How about that? Your horizon doesn't rise to eye level. So what? You're modelling the globe here, Antonio? Now, here you can see the side. You can just make out the red line of the laser level on that tube. And on this end of the tube, you can see this little red dot here, and you can just make out a red line there. So that gives you the tilt on the laser level. Now we know the dimensions of this tube, so I calculated it all out. How much tilted is this level? And you've got about a 0.5 degree drop on that laser level, Antonio. But here's the thing, you know, how is it that the laser appears to be in the middle of the tube? I mean, the tube's level, you can see on the spirit level it is. So how do you get the laser to look like it's in the middle of the tube? Well, there's a couple of tricks here. One of them is, you can see your camera is not pointing down the laser. It's pointing through there so that the tube, so that the laser is higher right near the camera and lower far away. So that's first of all leveling the camera with the tube. And then we've got this piece of paper. So he's got a piece of paper near the end of the, close to the end of the tube. Now why didn't he put the piece of paper way down there on the wall? He's jammed it up here in the tube. Now that would be because you have about this red line here represents the laser, and it has a 0.5 degree drop on it. So the closer you put your piece of paper to the tube, the less you'll notice that drop. So you see, when you look through the tube directly down there, you'll see that the laser looks pretty damn close to the middle of the tube. But you have a look in the background and you'll see the laser is lower in the distance. And you know that when we look at horizons, they're always in the distance. They're not on a piece of paper in front of your face. So there's a little bit of deception there, isn't there?
No trickery going on, no magic going on. Taking a pencil and then placing it under the level. Can we still see the horizon through that tube? Yes, and we can see that we're looking down the tube because the tube is angled down.
You know what, Antonio? I really don't understand what you just did there. You said you were looking down the tube. Now, this is how it was, a level tube looking straight down the tube. And then you tilted the tube. You still did not move the camera. And you said you're looking down the tube because the tube is tilted down. Really? I mean, what are you doing? Antonio's made a big deal about the fact that you can still see the laser through the tube, hence proving that he believes in this hypothesis that if you can see the horizon through a tube, then the Earth is flat. So he's made a big thing here about seeing the laser through the tube, and he's gone to a lot of trouble to try and duplicate the angles of the tube and everything that I had in my video, except he thinks he's doing it with a horizon that doesn't drop. But we know that his horizon is tilted. So I'll show you the little bit where he does the tube at the other end. Now this, I don't know, he probably should be doing a bit more critical thinking instead of drinking, because his video's all out of focus. But anyway, you wouldn't want him to take any videos at your wedding, that's for sure. But we'll see what he does with the other end of the tube, and you'll see that he still emphasizes that the laser is seen through the tube no matter the angle.
We can see the horizon, the artificial horizon that we've made with this laser, through the tube, and we can also tell that we're looking at a tube that's angled up.
So there you have it. Antonio's comparing his view through the tube to my view through the tube. And like I mentioned before, little does he know that his horizon drops just a little bit more than mine does. So what he's effectively done is he's completely ratified my observations as totally consistent with a drop horizon. And in his attempt to refute the globe, he's actually helped prove it. He's legitimized my observations quite well with a drop in the horizon. Thank you, Antonio. Well, there's more silliness in the video, but you know, I've had enough of this. So let's take the summary here. So in summary, the horizon drop of 0.5 degrees was undetected by your experiment. I'd call that a failure. So let's look at the scoreboard. The success in detecting horizon drop. Well, Antonio Subirats, you score nothing for that one. And Critical Think scores 1. So that's it. That's game over, Antonio. Sorry, you lose.